With today's content, we're talking about private practice money, meaning we're going to talk about the business side of running your own private practice that they don't teach us in grad school, whether you're looking to get into your own private practice or you've been in it for a while, you're by yourself or with a small team. Hopefully, the content that we have today will help you feel more encouraged and confident with where all the money is going. Because I know, like most of us, we entered the mental health field not to own a business and charge people money, but to help people with their mental health, right? Whether it's eating disorders, trauma, anxiety, all that stuff. And so, if y'all haven't met me before, my name is Teddy. I am a social worker, but I'm also a money coach. And I partnered with Jenna Rose, who is a finance coach, and she actually works a lot with solopreneurs and small businesses with this stuff specifically. So I thought she'd be a great subject matter expert for today's topic. So, Jenna Rose, you want to give a little bit of overview about yourself and what got you into this finance coaching?
Sure. My background is actually working for a wealth management company. I worked for a wealth management company for about 7 years, and I did have a finance background before that. But when I was at the wealth management firm, I wore a lot of different hats. I was their operations manager, their accountant, their bookkeeper, as well as being on the track to becoming a financial advisor for their firm. So I really got an intimate relationship with all things finances, and they were a small business as well. So I did develop that skill set for business finances. And what got me into coaching though was when I was there, there was so much of just like managing finances. I was sitting at a desk, really talking to people. But weirdly enough, what got me into coaching was all the divorcees we had as clients. Like we had a ton of married couples come on as clients, and then come retirement, they didn't like each other anymore. And there was one person foreign to the finance picture. So that person I would kind of take under my wing, spend a lot of time with them, and just get them familiar with their finances. And rather than building a rigid approach towards like, okay, we have this goal, let's put aside these amounts of dollars to get there, I found it more impactful to always get high on wins. Just start small and keep building, keep moving, because we are always evolving and never done. And over time, my clientele has actually shifted a lot, where now 70% of my clients in my coaching practice are all solopreneurs. And it seems like there's a lot of the same struggles going on with like maybe splitting up business from personal. Because when you're really, really small starting out, that seems like not a big deal, but then it becomes a very big deal later. Um, just managing the numbers, being familiar with the numbers, carving out that time, all that stuff. So that's why I'm here today.
Fantastic. So yeah, today we are going through key areas for new private practices, and if my screen would load. It's spazzing out a little bit, y'all. My bad on that one. So yeah, the overview, we're going to talk about these 4 points: separating business from personal finances, being able to pay yourself and your business, pricing yourself for a sustainable practice so you're not burning yourself out from the get-go, and then staying organized with personal finances. And my guess, if y'all want to raise your hand or put in the chat, but my guess is that y'all found out about this through Facebook and or LinkedIn. But if you found out from a friend, that's cool to know too. But yeah, one of the things that we're hoping to give y'all by the end of this is not just tactical steps for these areas for your business finances, but also a couple free bonuses to get you started on your journey. And yeah, our goal is for this to be kind of like an open forum, very like conversational workshop. So feel free to unmute your mic if you have a question, or if you're a little scared to interrupt, you can put the question in the chat. And then whenever we find a good stopping point, we can pull it out of the chat and into the conversation. So I'm excited. Let's start off with separating business from personal money. So Jenna Rose, can you talk about like why this is even important, and like what kind of implications does it have for your business, but also like for your mental health?
I mean, the first thing that comes to mind is just the taxes, because it's really messy to do your taxes if you don't have these things separated. And I think the best analogy I ever heard for this was like putting cream in coffee. Like if you think of your business finances as cream and your personal finances as coffee. Once you start intermingling those things, it's its own substance at this point. You can't really go extract the cream from the coffee. So when you go into your taxes, it's an absolute nightmare. You probably miss out on deductions that you could have gotten and thus are paying more in taxes. So that's the number one issue. The other thing is when you intermingle them from a mindset standpoint, then you don't get to see your business as its own animal, as its own entity, which it really is its own living, breathing thing. And it's got its own wins, its own goals, and then that ultimately pays you for your personal life to achieve your own personal things. But I think they really have to be separate to be healthy.
Yeah, I think you make a really good point there too about just the boundaries between your professional life and your personal life. I don't know about any of y'all, but if you've worked in another agency or organization, and if they give you like a separate cell phone, that is a lifesaver because I could just put that work stuff aside. And so it clearly defines that um, your identity isn't your business necessarily, but your business funds the lifestyle that you're wanting. And also it's just a lot easier for tracking like what your money's actually doing, right? So Jenna Rose, can you kind of give us the 101 on how to actually do this? Like tactically, what does separating business and personal finance look like?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing is just everything should have its own accounts, and that's checking, savings, all of that. If you are new to opening a business, I would say just like start right off the bat, even if you don't think you'll make money for a whole year, go and just get that business checking account so it's alive and you have somewhere to put new revenue into. Um, if you've already started and you have everything kind of intermingled now, the process would be, yeah, go and create that shell, get the account started, but then you're probably going to want to gradually over time start setting up whatever automated payments to the new account and just, I don't maybe put in like 10 minutes a week or something like that into just getting everything moved over. I also just want to point out, I remember when I first started trying to find a business account that didn't charge me money to have it was like a big ordeal. The free ones are definitely out there. There's enough free accounts out there. You should not have to pay money for to hold your money somewhere or to keep your revenue somewhere. I'm a big fan of Bluevine. If you can get away with an online bank, they do pay you interest just for the checking. So you're actually getting paid to have your money somewhere, which is pretty sweet. And they have relationships with like bookkeeping softwares, insurance companies, all these things that actually get you other perks as long as you keep an eye on that stuff. And then savings too, you can definitely have savings with some added growth, like Live Oak or Axos both pay like 4%. So just keeping those things in mind, because I see so many people go for Chase or Wells Fargo for their business accounts, and they're being charged like maybe $10 a month at minimum just to hold their money there if there isn't like at least 5 grand in there at all times or some threshold like that. And if you're a newer business, that can be tough to achieve. So.
Absolutely. And one thing to also note that like with your having a separate business account, if you all don't already, if you have a practice already, you have an EIN, which is like a number you get from the IRS for free, but that's just a number for your business instead of using your social security card, right? So you use that number to open up your checking account, or if you already have your PLLC and all of that information, same thing. And then, of course, you'd want a debit card or a credit card associated with that account. So business expenses are coming from the business account, not your personal account. And that kind of loops us into the common mistakes part. If you wanted to touch on that a little bit, on what mistakes you typically see with business owners, new business owners.
I mean, the one I already mentioned is going into accounts that charge you money, and then the mixing personal. But other than that, I'd say not staying on top of the cash flow and then just or trying to pay yourself a consistent figure where your business is maybe very volatile. That doesn't always jive. Of course, then that brings up the point of like, are you an S corp or are you a sole proprietor? But typically, an S corp is making such a at least a certain profit level that it would make sense to pay yourself a salary. But overall, just don't let your accounts dip too low. Keeping an eye on what the expenses are, keeping a good threshold in that business checking, and not overpaying yourself right off the bat can be a common mistake.
Awesome.
What do you
Yeah.
see, Teddy, for common mistakes?
I would say, yeah, the biggest one is spending. Well, I don't quite as much see spending personal from the business account. I see people spending business money from their personal account, which if you're having a business expense that is deductible and you're spending it from your personal account, that might not get captured in your bookkeeping or in your whenever you're keeping track of the transactions. So I highly recommend if you can get a so Blue Vine gives a digital one and a physical one for any of those purchases. It's fantastic. It just makes keeping the money organized so much easier. And if it's less of a headache, even 1% better to keep it organized, we actually do it. And when we actually do it, then we make progress with our money. So yeah, this last little note I think is so true. The separation isn't just a good accounting practice, but a foundation for financial peace. All right, so going on to the second part, raise your hand or put it in the chat. How many of y'all want to get into private practice because it's supposed to pay, like you're supposed to pay more, get paid more, and hopefully work less or more flexible hours? I know that's definitely my thought, and I hear it all the time. Yeah, for sure, Hannah. And so here's the thing though, is like you don't realize how much gets taken out in taxes as a business owner and all these other things that come into play with like business expenses. So we really want to highlight how important it is to pay yourself as well as keep money in the business for growth. So, Jenna Rose, if you want to go ahead and I don't know if you had anything on this slide that you want to talk about, but we can go to the next one if you want to.
I think the next one will make the point a little more clear.
All right.
So allocating the profit. So, and notice that I say profit, not revenue. So you have to make sure that you're one, tracking the finances, can't stress that enough, but keeping an eye on what's coming, what's going out, what are the expenses, what's that net profit, and that's what we're allocating from. And from there, you have to come up with what's going to work the best for your business. Most commonly, I see it work out the best for 50% going to the owner's pay, assuming you're a sole proprietor, and then 30% going to taxes, and then 20% towards back into the business for future growth, whether it be future expenses or maybe continuing ed is a big one, like going to conferences, things like that, putting into that bucket. But I also recommend that when you start to play around with this, that you stress test, look at future months, follow your trends. Like for me, for example, I'm very busy in the summer and then not so much in the winter. So my allocations actually change a little bit for when pay is higher versus lower. Um, and then I also have like, big expenses maybe hit in February because that's when I do like all my renewals, like filing with the state, all that stuff. So like my margin isn't going to be as high that month as another month. So you have to play around with it, stress test it. Like, are your expenses high? Is 20% back into your business actually going to meet those needs for your expenses? Are you always profiting and having something left over with these allocations? So that's what I have on that. I don't know if you guys have any
Yeah.
questions. I think I talked a lot.
One thing I do just like want to highlight the example because this, if y'all are new to this or you've been in it, you start to feel how much like the taxes hit. So if you're wanting to pay yourself $5,000 a month, that you need to make $10,000, set aside 3,000 for taxes, 2,000 to stay in the business for CEUs, conferences. Maybe you want to get like save money up for getting into a physical space, whatever that is. So you can start to see that the dream of owning a business, you actually have to consider like total monies, which is revenue, and then keeping your expenses as tight as possible so that you can actually pay yourself from the profits and set up your business for growth, right? You're building a practice not just to build yourself a job, but to build yourself a business where you can either bring other people in, hopefully be more flexible, step back, and all that kind of stuff. And I know sometimes with all this like financial jargon, it could be kind of confusing. So if y'all have questions about what any of these like words mean, feel free to just like drop it in the chat. I think there was something on the previous one that I wanted to comment on. Let me see. So yeah, this comment right here. A lot of new practice owners and business owners just pay themselves what is left, right? So this 20% figure usually isn't taken into account. And kind of like I said, you're building a business, right? You're not just building your job. And the whole goal with the business is that it gives you the opportunity to be flexible, have control over your time and all this stuff. And that's only possible if you're budgeting money for that, right? So, yeah, I am super grateful that Texas doesn't have state taxes. Our local taxes are, eh, I have some opinions about that, but it's, yeah, for the most part, um, the good rule of thumb is about 30% for taxes for whenever we do our federal taxes. And yeah, the big mistake is if we're not withholding that, we're going to owe the IRS some money, and the IRS is going to come knocking at our door and steal it. Just kidding, not steal it, but garnish our wages, whatnot, put liens on our stuff.
If you don't mind, Teddy, can I actually touch on the tax piece one more time?
Yeah.
Because what did I want to say about it? Because there is a breakdown with that. Like there's, and I don't know if everybody understands that. Like when you are taxed as a sole proprietor, you still have to pay the taxes as if you were like a W-2 employee, essentially from the employer and the employee perspective. So between Social Security, FICA, all that, you're paying like 15.3%. And then anything after that just passes through your typical the progressive brackets. But that said, the second that you trigger over 1,000 in federal taxes owed from your business, that is actually going to trigger the IRS to have you do quarterly payments. So that will save you a little bit in the long haul, but you still want to be looking at your numbers because those quarterly payment estimates are always based on last year. So if we're, having quarterly estimates based on year one and you double your revenue the next year, you still want to make sure that you're paying attention to what you've already paid and what still needs to go out and just keeping that aside.
Yeah, so pretty much
I don't know if that
answers,
made
hopefully that answers your question, Hannah, that quarterly versus annual taxes, when you reach that $1,000 in taxes threshold, then I want to say if you don't pay quarterly taxes, you are penalized a little bit, right? I'm sure Jenna Rose, you could speak to this a lot
If
better
the IRS is
than
issuing
I
you
can.
quarterly estimates, then yes. But if you're just getting like a financial advisor issuing you vouchers to do it, then my understanding is no. Because I know financial advisors often will do like tax projections and say, oh, put this amount into a quarterly tax payment. And, you can just submit that anytime, but that doesn't have a penalty.
Yeah, so absolutely. When we're thinking about building our team for our business, having some kind of tax advisor or CPA, bookkeeper for that front is super important. Financial planner to just discuss some of these like business finance planning is crucial for sure. All right. So I guess to answer your question, Hannah, both are correct technically. Your business grows, you will be doing most likely the quarterly taxes. All right, let's talk margin. I like to define these terms like I'm five, right? Has anyone been that explained to me this? Like I'm five, I thrive off that stuff. So margin, kind of like the margins of a paper, is just like the gap between how much you're making and how much you're spending, or what extra money you have, that space. And so increasing that margin can either mean increasing your revenue and keeping your expenses or decreasing your expenses so that you have more available money. And so, Jen Rose, I'd like for you to talk about what you have here.
Yeah. So, I mean, margin directly correlates to your net profit, right? Like revenue minus expenses. You always want to be increasing that net profit because that's where freedom comes from. You can allocate that. I mean, I always have my recommendations, but that's your door opener. So increasing your margin, the first point I had put here relies mostly on routine and research. And I would say getting into just a routine of looking at your finances regularly. I think once a month at minimum is probably fair, but it's still healthy just to touch it once a week, just maybe for a minute or see what's coming in, what's going out. Can I adjust my pricing? Maybe that requires a little research, looking at your expenses. I mean, stuff is always changing. Is there a promo out there that applies to the CRM or the bookkeeping software you're using? Um, is there something better out there that would save you money? Just coasting with the same stuff you started with day one isn't always necessarily the best for your financial health. So that's what I was trying to get across there. And I almost say the same thing in the second point, review your numbers regularly. Just know your numbers. Like, just look at them. Don't be a stranger to your numbers. Question the subscriptions. Um, all the time. I like stuff that is just a recurring expense for me. I'll see it randomly go up one month and I'll go back and ask the question. Sometimes it's, oh yeah, you were grandfathered into this old policy. Sorry about that. Or, you never know. You might be leaving money on the table by not just questioning those things. I'm also a really big fan of doing free trials. And, if I don't keep tabs on it, then I'll forget and it'll just keep going. Talk to your community, other people in the same field as you. What are they using? What are some financial tricks that help them? What are some tools that help them? Are they paying more or less? I think communication is huge. And that's also a networking thing too, which could increase your revenue, thus building up margin, seeking promotions, and then pricing your services appropriately. I think that is a killer. I know when I first started, I used to brag that I had a conversion rate of 100%. I like thought that was so cool. I was like, yep, everyone loves me. Everyone wants to work with me. But then I was talking to a marketing professional and she was like, Jenna Rose, no, like that's not something to be proud of. You should have a conversion rate more like 30% because otherwise that means you're undercharging. And I was sitting there like mind blown, like, oh my gosh.
Something I want to add about the pricing thing. I know a lot of us are trained up in grad school to feel kind of icky about selling or like asking for money for services that oftentimes we believe should be free, right? Or should be affordable. And kind of with this pricing and margin aspect, when you're able to price appropriately, so if you're very niched into eating disorders or niche into couples therapy and people are willing to pay this price, that gives you the margin and the bandwidth to take on pro bono clients or to take on sliding scale clients who aren't able to pay that. So it's the pricing is like a whole thing we could absolutely have an entirely different workshop on. But yeah, kind of to piggyback off of what you were saying, Jenna Rose, with margin and like expenses for a business. So some of the big ones that I've seen a lot with small practices are office spaces, website marketing, Psychology Today, like things like that. They start to add up. Canva, um, and so it's really important to think about like what are the most important things you need, like bare minimum. If you absolutely need a physical office, do you have to get a whole lease for yourself, or can you sublease it from someone else and save yourself $400 to $500 a month? And same thing with subscriptions. Do we need the top tier Squarespace subscription, or can we use the bottom tier plus Mailchimp or something like that? Um, but yeah, ultimately, one of the I guess I forgot who said it. Who originally said it. I saw it from Simon Sinek. He's like a leadership thought leader, whatever. But he said that like with running a business, the goal is not to make money, but like money runs the business. Otherwise, you don't have it, right? We can't help people unless there is money flowing through the business for us to pay ourselves and grow and all that stuff. And so, one of the biggest mindset shifts that I talk to other mental health practitioners for charging, right? If you're ethically practicing, you're doing good, you're doing a good service, and they're getting value from your session, they are happy to be able to pay if they can, or if it's a sliding scale, that works too. Um, so yeah, that's primarily related to self-pay stuff. Insurance is different because you don't really have quite as much control on that front. But yeah. So the analogy was that cash is like gas for the car. You don't buy a car so that you would buy gas. The gas is to run the car, just like the business is the car and money is just the gas. And so as you're able to fuel the business with proper pricing, proper cutting your expenses, then you're able to serve more people and in a better capacity. Kind of like with this workshop, because we have clients who are paying us in our business. We have the bandwidth to give free content like this, as well as the bonuses. And so I hope y'all are getting value. If not, we definitely appreciate your feedback. But yeah, we want to be able to deliver value for you all to help you in your businesses so you can also serve your clients better too. So going on to the next section, talking a little bit about strategic pricing and having a sustainable workload. So this is primarily related to self-pay type like counseling or therapy practices, but they're also good principles if you're accepting insurance as well. Because chances are you'll also have self-paying clients even if you accept insurance. So Jenna Rose, you can go ahead with the pricing stuff.
Oh, sure. So I mean, many self-employed professionals are pricing their services based on industry norms, like just kind of hearing around, like, oh, this is what this person charges, this is what that person charges, so this is the general range I should be charging, without actually looking at what's going into their service. I mean, every business is its own unique situation, so I think just hearing what someone else is charging and not looking at what are the cost of goods going into this? You know, is there software you're using? Are you including assessments? Is there a cost to that? Um, what are those? Because you have to make sure that's baked into what you charge. Non-billable time, the admin stuff you're doing, marketing, continuing ed. I mean, the continuing ed piece, especially, this is stuff that your clients aren't doing. Like they're paying you for the expertise, so you have to make sure you're baking some of that into what you charge. Has anybody here ever done the value stack formula? Are you familiar with it? No. It just walks you through like every little thing that builds up your skill set to do what you're doing. And you make it super trivial, like write out every little thing that goes into it, your college education, your CEUs, your the time that you put in outside a session, and you'll see that your value is actually gargantuan by doing that. So keep that in mind. You obviously want to be competitive within the industry. So keep an eye on what that range looks like and what they're doing too. Like, are we comparing apples to apples when we compare ourselves to other professionals in the field? Um, and then being attractive to your specific audience. And that has a lot of range within itself. You know, are you targeting more like people who are really struggling, because then for them you need bite-sized services that are really low cost. Are you going more towards an excellence audience that is really like maybe high net worth and they probably have more complicated issues that they're presenting you with? Then you need to make sure that the pricing makes sense to them and that they're not going to question it and think this is weird, why is it so cheap? Because that happens. So you have to be taking that into account. Who is your audience and what are they going to expect to pay? What are they going to find value in?
And I think one of the things to really highlight is that even like in grad school, in our internships, in if you're an LPCA, LMFT associate, or whatever, like we're so used to charging for our like hours, like hourly pay, right? And we're used to getting paid 30, $35 an hour working within an agency or something like that. And so in order to keep that up, if you have $50, $75 sessions, then you're having to take on like 30, 40, 45 clients each week, which will burn you out for sure. And so, yeah, as you're learning, you won't be able to charge as high because um, you're gaining experience and all that stuff. But at the end of the day, if you're building a sustainable practice, you're even though the clients are paying for their hour, you're doing much more work outside of that session hour, the 50 minutes and the 10 minutes of notes. This includes your emails, your marketing. One of the diagrams And this is in an ideal world. I know not every practice can be like this, but it's just to show you like what a sustainable workload looks like. So this is just a chart of like a breakdown of a 40-hour week. If you're working 40 hours in your private practice, 20 hours going towards client work, so 20 client sessions, 8 hours going towards admin tasks, contracts, notes, things like that. About, I think that's probably 5 hours in marketing, social media, if you want to do podcasts, if you're doing ads. I don't actually know what the ethical considerations are for ads, so that's my ignorance. But yeah, like sprucing up your Psychology Today profile, things like that. Professional development, that's your CEUs, conferences, things like that. And then buffer time, like we need to breathe. We need to take breaks during the day if we want to stay sane and be most available for our clients. So yeah, 20-hour client work, 20 sessions may sound crazy because if you've done private practice or some kind of like mental health practice and you're like, no, 35 to 40 clients a week is full-time work. You probably also know you're probably not showing up the best for each client each time. Um, and there's another figure. I forget it's a it's someone's number, but it's like how many relationships are we able to effectively manage? And I think it's about 150. And so if you have like 100 to 150 clients every single month, like think about how effectively can you serve all of those clients because you're managing so many more relationships than just them, right? So um, pricing based on 20 or 25 clients a week is super important so that you're not burnt out. And yeah, I think in some of the marketing material I made for this is the goal is you can price and pay yourself so you don't hate your business, and that's the goal. All right, so the last module, the last sectionized and staying organized. Hold on, this thing is cutting off. Staying financially organized and in control. That's what it says. All right.
So, yeah, organization is key. You should have a money meeting with yourself. I'd say a minimum of 30 minutes. You, monthly would be probably the bare minimum. I think I still like to just check in with my finances for maybe 5 minutes a week. Like, is there money in there? Okay, cool. Like, at least, at bare minimum, is it there? And that's, at least you're checking if there's fraud, you're having a relationship with your money, you're aware. And that just to make sure that you're actually carving out the time to do it, like wherever clients are booking meetings with you, like if they book online, whatever calendar that goes to, actually block off the time for yourself as an appointment. Make sure that you're getting that time. Otherwise, things can spiral out of control really quickly. Um, Make it consistent, distraction free. And if you're someone who really hates numbers, just try to make it nice. I was talking to this other lady who, when she deals with her finances, she has like some flowers and candles around. Like she tries to make it really nice. There's certain music that she likes with it. Do whatever you have to make it nice. Maybe you take your laptop outside, whatever works best for you to be able to do it. Essential tracking tools. Simple systems like I'm a big fan of spreadsheets just because I like creative freedom with my numbers. I know not everybody is like that. But so having some software is solid. Xero, Wave, FreshBooks are all solid options. Xero is honestly my favorite for a bookkeeping software. You'll notice I did not put QuickBooks on here because I don't think it's user friendly. I think if you're going to use QuickBooks, you should probably have a professional who knows QuickBooks really well managing that for you and then just giving you the reports. Um, I still like to have a spreadsheet outside of that too, though, just so you're always forecasting as well. I believe Wave does have some forecasting options in it, but just for the creative freedom, I would use a spreadsheet and I do have a template for that. I believe in one of the bonuses. And then key reports. So just reviewing your profit and loss statement, any bookkeeping software you're using, whether it be Xero, Wave, whatever, um, will generate you profit and loss statements as you go. So you can always look in like what's the month to date, year to date looking like? Am I profiting? Should I be changing something? Just taking a look at that.
Absolutely. And so, I don't know about you, even though I love numbers, I get overwhelmed looking at my own business finances. So I actually have a bookkeeper and I check in with him, being like, hey, what's kind of the temperature check on business? Are we like profitable? Are we, you know, spending too much on miscellaneous things like treating people out to lunch for networking, things like that. But yeah, like Jenna Rose said, that will be one of your bonuses that will include is that money template for businesses. All right, so we're pretty much wrapping it up. So consider these like key takeaways or an action plan that you can walk away with today to improve your business finances or prepare for whenever you are opening a business. Um, so, getting into a regular money meeting routine, that's another way of budgeting or checking your accounts, all that stuff, so that you know your numbers, what you need to live on, and so what you need to make in your business, things like that. Also, opening a separate business account if you don't have them already. If you're planning to open up your practice, getting an EIN is free. Just go to the IRS website, apply for EIN, and then use that for, I believe, your PLLC application and whatnot. But yeah, having that separate designated account with a separate designated card. And then within 30 days, think about pricing and your game plan to launch or to improve what you currently have. So consider what other people in your niche, meaning like in that specialty, are charging. Is it $50 to $100 per session, or is it $250 to $300 per session? And that way you kind of get a feel of like what is appropriate for your target audience. And then lastly, yeah, just streamline your new allocation plan. Know how much you can and are able to pay yourself, and how much you're keeping in the business for the future, and how much you're setting aside for taxes. And to loop all this together, well, I guess, what does it say? Financial clarity isn't about perfection, it's about progress and peace of mind. So I know that all this financial stuff can be intimidating, especially with all the fancy schmancy words. But at the end of the day, if you're learning and growing gradually and just getting 1% better every day with your business, whether it's on consultation calls, offering the pricing, follow ups, or anything like that, it's all about the small improvements that make a really great practice. And so, getting you started, here are the bonuses that we were talking about earlier. And so, for those watching the recording, this is available to you too. So you can fill out the feedback form, or there'll be a link in the email. But the business money plan template is kind of like a do-it-yourself, organizing your business finances, knowing what you're bringing in, what you're spending, and I think there are formulas in there that calculate the profit and loss and whatnot. So you'll get that for free. I think it's Excel sheet or Google sheet, something like
It's an
that.
Excel sheet, yeah.
Okay. And so another couple of other bonuses that to help y'all get started with this, we offer a discovery and strategy session. So really that's like a done with you kind of bonus where we talk, get to know your business and see like what are the next best steps for you. Is it pricing? Is it organization? Is it just getting connected with the right people on your team? Things like that. And like I said, these are all free. They're bonuses. You don't have to give us your credit card information or anything. Okay. And then lastly, something that I'm actually trying to build out on my side of things is just bookkeeping services. So you don't have to deal with the headache of organizing the numbers yourself. You can have someone else do that for you and just check in with them as your monthly money meeting. So this is an actually done for you service, and it removes the headache of managing your own books or going through your transactions and inputting them into a Google spreadsheet yourself. And so kind of a little overview for what I mean by trial bookkeeping services. So I am training a bookkeeper. He wants to build his own practice. And as part of that, he's trying to get beta clients, right? Come the early birds, so he can also gain experience. So as part of that, he does the QuickBooks setup and then 2 months of either cleanup or bookkeeping services so that you can see the value of like what this looks like in practice. And if after the trial you're like, hey, this was cool and all, but I think I can do this by myself, totally cool. We'd appreciate some kind of testimonial or review or feedback. But if you love it and want to keep having someone else do your books for you, then you have like promotional pricing on that front. So, like I said, those are your three bonuses. So if you're wanting to get started and just like make that barrier of entry less so that you can focus more on your business, on serving your clients well, these are all free. And if you love them and you want to continue, then we'll talk numbers later. But yeah, there's also some feedback rating stuff in that QR code thing. So that also tells us, is this content even valuable? Like, did y'all find it engaging? Do you feel like it was boring? Do you feel like it lacked something else that you were looking for? Let us know, because I want to be able to run other workshops like this so we can reach more people and help them with their business side of their counseling and therapy practices. That's it for our content. Did y'all have any questions you want to talk about, or any scenarios that you're currently facing that you want to just kind of like process through?
I'm trying to set up my own practice. Is it possible for us to establish a second EIN without it screwing up insurance and billing on the first one? Does that make sense?
Yes, I think I understand what you're asking. So you're looking to go on your own separate from the group you're with, right? Under your own EIN, have your own thing.
Correct, correct.
Yeah, so I mean, the group you're with though, like they already have their own established clients, the insurance that they're tied to, I mean, that would all stay under their stuff. And then when you do stuff under your separate entity, then you
Mhm.
would have to do the insurance separate as your business. Otherwise, it's all going under the group.
Correct. Because my main worry is if I'm trying to establish my own practice and business with my own EIN, I don't want it to mess up billing or issues with the clients on that first group practice.
Do you have like a business name, or like do you already have a PLLC and all that stuff? Or
Not yet. I'm planning on hiring an attorney to work with me to figure all that out. Because I have the name, I just haven't figured out how to put the steps together yet. Thank
Yeah,
you.
my understanding is you should be good. I mean, but can I just ask, how are you paid from the group now? Like, are you paid as a 1099 contractor or a W-2 employee?
I can
I
answer that. It's W-2.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So then, yeah, doing anything under your EIN separate where with the group you're paid as a W-2 employee, I would think, I mean, you can double check this with the lawyer, but you should be, those are such separate entities, it shouldn't be an issue.
Cool. Okay. Sweet. Thank you.
yeah.
I was just wondering, so I'm kind of in the beginning stages of starting a private practice. I've purchased or gotten like the virtual address because I know you need that for the LLC, and then was going to get an EIN. And I was just wondering, like, what would you guys advise as far as like next steps in just kind of developing, like building it from the ground up?
Jenna, do you want to go first? Yeah.
Okay. I mean, my first thought was just coming up with your initial investment. I don't know if you've already put a pocket of cash aside, thinking about, what softwares you want to use, what like everything that's going to go into your practice. And like when I first started my business, I put aside a whole year's worth of expenses because most people when they first start don't profit in their first year. So it's like I just don't want it to be an issue where I like can't pay for X, Y, and Z. So I put that aside first, and that all went into my business account. So I opened up my business account, put that savings into there, and was like, okay, this is all business. Do you have anything to add? I feel like I'm missing.
So you said that you have your virtual address and your EIN. Do you already have a business bank account set up?
I got purchased the virtual address first, and then I need to actually file the LLC. So I don't have the EIN yet.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, once you get the LLC, EIN, all that stuff, and just having that bank account like open as soon as you have that information, a business financial standpoint is like just bare bones. Because ultimately, when you're running a business, you just need a way to contact people,
hmm
a way to put the money, like real simple, right? We can make it super complicated with websites and Psychology Today profiles and all these like things. But yeah, it also depends on like what kind of practice you want to open, right? If you're wanting to get credentialed with insurance, that's probably a process you'd want to start once you have the PLLC and EIN stuff.
Hmm.
I don't know the ins and outs of like what that credentialing process looks like, but my understanding, if you have all your business stuff set up and you're going through like Headway or some kind of like third party where they can credential it for you or like with you, that may make easier. And I know Jenna Rose has some clients that work Headway or like BetterHelp or some of those kind of like brokers for clients. And that could be a really great way to get started building your book of clients so that you're not having to worry as much about all of the marketing to get clients on your own.
Okay, gotcha. I know I'm right now just have a full-time job in like PHP IOP
Mhm.
right now, and so my plan was eventually to be able to like step down to PRN while I'm building caseload and things like that. But I was just wondering, what kinds of things can I be focusing on until I'm ready to make that transition?
Yeah, I love that for you. I think being able to have some kind of other income while you're building your practice is like the least risky thing, like the best way to reduce the risk for your business because business income
Okay.
goes like this. And having PRN or something part-time to stabilize that and cover your needs makes the business finances a lot less stressful. I would say if you're not already connected in like a lot of networking groups where either in person or online, where you're having coffee chats or just like learning from other people's experiences, I would say that's a really great place to start as well, because you can also get in the rhythm of like differentiating yourself and establishing those referral partners, right? Because you may, what kind of practice were you wanting to build? Or like what kind of specialty?
Oh, so I'm LMFT, so mostly couples, and then some family as well.
Okay. Yeah. And so, like, if you're, I don't know if this is at all interesting to you, but like, say you're doing betrayal trauma or like infidelity work
Hmm.
with couples, and then you can identify that, like, that's your niche, that's like your bread and butter things that you want to work on, so that whenever you're talking with other therapists and they're like, I could work with that, but this person's better. Those are the opportunities that you can make with those just like relationships that you're building. Or
Right.
maybe you get a client that comes in who is like facing addiction, and they may be a couple, but they're really more so needing a therapist for the addiction component. And that's either something you don't want to work with or aren't as good of a fit for, then you're also establishing relationships that way where you can make the good referrals. So, yeah, I hope that helps.
Awesome. Yes, it did. Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Absolutely. Do you have any other questions before we close out? All right. Well, just kind of reiterate, yeah, here are the bonuses. If y'all were interested, getting a money plan template for your business, just get organized on where your money's going in and out of the business and into your pocket. The discovery and strategy session to just get some hands-on guidance on that next step for you. And the trial bookkeeping services, getting you set up with bookkeeping software so that you can have a good plan of like knowing, is your business profitable? Or am I spending too much and all of that stuff? So the link's in the description. But it's also this QR code that you can scan with your telephone cellular device. So, all right, I appreciate y'all. Hope you have a great rest of your Saturday, and feel free to reach out if y'all have any questions.